Hi, this is Glòria here from TU Dublin GROWTHhub, and today we have here Aisling Kirwan, co-founder and director of operations of Positive Carbon, a company that focuses on reduced waste. And Aisling was one of our former participants of New Frontiers in TU Dublin. So welcome to GROWTHhub, Aisling, today.
Thanks for having me.
A pleasure, a pleasure. So I have one question for you, well, a few questions for you, but one question is, how did Positive Carbon happen? How do you pass from I'm in college to I have a business, I'm a co-founder of a business?
Well, it was never a plan laid out that clearly. So I studied biochemistry, and although I loved the course and I loved the things that I learned, I knew working in a lab was never going to be for me. So I looked out for other things that I was really passionate about, and I've always been incredibly passionate about the environment and sustainability. So I got an amazing opportunity to work at Food Cloud, which is an Irish staple in startups. So it's a social enterprise that matches up food retailers that have too much food with local charities that can use the food. So I worked at Food Cloud for many years, and that's where I was able to focus in on one aspect of sustainability that I wanted to make an impact on. I think when we think about the climate crisis, it can be overwhelming and daunting because it's such a large problem. So to have a singular focus on something that I could work on and try to make a personal and professional impact in was just brilliant. So from there I worked in a similar organisation in Australia, and myself and my co-founder were actually invited to Chile by the Chilean government to work up to create a similar initiative in Santiago. We were there for 2 weeks until the entire city shut down with the pandemic, and we were kindly asked by the Irish embassy to please go home. So we're back in Ireland, and food retailers already have a pretty good system going. They track their food waste very well, and then they have amazing organisations like Food Cloud to work with already. So we wanted to focus our efforts on what's an area producing a lot of food waste that doesn't have a solution available to them.
Yeah.
And that was the hospitality and food service sector. So we spent many months just on research, rang everyone who would possibly speak to us on the phone about what the problem of food waste looks like to them and what a possible solution could look like. I suppose it was one of the slight upsides of the pandemic is that we wanted to speak to general managers, operations managers and head chefs, who are three of the busiest people in the entire world, who normally work 50, 60, 70 hours a week, suddenly had a lot of time in their hands, and they're really generous with their time. So we got a really good base of what we understood in the industry to be the problem and what a solution will look like. And yeah, we just built out a first product and tried to get it out there as quickly as possible.
Because you had not worked in a kitchen before, and neither
I've worked we worked in kitchens, as in I worked in a pizza place in San Diego in SeaWorld for a summer, but not to the extent of like people who are passionate about food and make that their livelihood. So yeah, it was a lot of understanding that world to be able to
a huge learning curve.
Exactly, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. No, well done. And then, so, the way, like, so you were working for someone else when you were in Food Cloud, sorry, and then you went to Chile, but how come then that decision of, let's try it ourselves? How did that come up?
I don't think it was one single conversation. I think we were just looking at this absolutely massive problem and there wasn't really that much happening around it, and I think it came from wanting to make a personal impact on something, so we can make decisions and drive things forward as we want to, and with urgency, because it needs to be urgent at this stage, and just being back in Ireland and seeing the opportunity there, timing wise it was just really good as well. So that's kind of it.
Yeah. And do you find any challenges by doing it with someone else rather than going on your own?
I would actually advocate the other way, that I think doing it alone, many people do and they're successful at it, but I think doing it even with one other person, you're still wearing 100 hats every single day as you build out a team, so it's stressful enough with 2 people. I can imagine it being more stressful again if you have to wear all those other people's hats as well, and then not having the support and someone else who knows exactly what you're going through.
Yes.
Because it's a lonely enough journey when there's 2 of you. On one person alone, I can imagine it'd be even more difficult. So I'm glad I have a co-founder to work with. Absolutely.
No, that's great. And you were saying about building the team. So how is that going? So you were 2. How many are you today, and how many you think you might need to be tomorrow?
So we were 2 until last year. Would have just been the 2 of us. Now there's 11 of us.
Wow.
So we have 6 based in our office in Dublin, and then others around remote around the world. But we hope to be have another. Sorry, we're on 6 now, so we hope to be up to 10 by the end of the year in the office. There'll be another additional 4 people in Dublin.
Wow, that's a huge change. Like we're 2. Hi, Mark. Hi, Ashley. Hi, Johnny, Martha. And the recruiting being at the moment, it is hard. Or how are you finding that when there's full employment, to find the right people to work for yourselves?
It is hard. It's time consuming. We've been disappointed a couple of times as well. So it is definitely one of the most difficult parts. And it's also something, if you get wrong, it can be, not only do you not get the added benefit of someone adding value to your company, it can be detrimental. People can do damage if they're not doing what you need them to do. So it's not taken lightly. So that can be difficult. But I suppose the one thing we have on our advantage is that as a sustainability company, people want to work for things that they care about. So we've been reached out to people who, under normal seconds we'd never be able to afford, because tech recruits in Ireland especially are crazy. But people would rather walk away from a big tech company where they maybe have a very, very big salary and come work for a startup that's working on something they really care about.
No, that's great. And then from a growth perspective, a part of the staff growing, obviously the company growing, how do you see the company, where is going next? So at the moment you're based in Ireland.
Yes.
Are we staying in Ireland?
No. So the next step is going to be the UK. Understandably, it's very close. And a lot of the customers we're working with now, there's an opportunity to expand throughout their entire group, which would bring us naturally into the UK anyway. But after that point, the next step would be Austria, Germany. We have Austrian and German investors, so we already have good connections over there. And just as countries, they're even steps above Ireland when it comes to around sustainability. They get it as well, so it's an easier sell.
That's excellent. And from a motivation point of view, so I know you're obviously very passionate about sustainability, but did you get those days that you're like, no, I don't want to lift the bed, this is too big, or I'm not feeling like doing this, or I'm going nowhere, or the loneliness piece you were talking about? How do you keep yourself motivated?
So those days definitely exist, and I think they exist for everyone as well. So if you're ever doing it and you think this is too hard, everyone has thought that at some point, so you're not alone. I think it's taking advantage of the little wins, because you can get bogged down in the day-to-day and things being difficult on a day-to-day, but then when you look back on what you've actually achieved, I think you can focus too much on the difficult things and not appreciate the wins that you have had. So we've actually started doing this on a monthly basis, just for a couple of bullet points, what did we get done this week, and being able to then look back on that across the year. You forget, we were only here at the start of this year, and now we're the whole way over here. It's being able to reflect on the huge, it may seem slow at the time, but huge accomplishments that you've gotten over periods. And also, I think nothing will motivate you more than trying to fight the climate crisis. So every day when that's things seem that they're too difficult, it's a good motivator to get out of bed.
No, that's great. And I would say in your business, because it's so it's numbers based, exactly how many weight you've saved, your company obviously and everybody involved in it have managed to stop being waste. So that has to be, I presume.
And it's even talking to customers and seeing how they're getting on. We were I was with one hotel down in Killarney recently, and the head chef just said, "Oh, I just genuinely didn't know how many sausages we were wasting on a daily basis, and then I saw it. We just cook less sausages now." And I was like, "Yes, that's it. That's exactly it." So being able to hear those like stories on the ground as well of changes that kitchens have made is really uplifting.
Yeah, no, certainly. So, Aisling, this is a tricky question. if you take it as tricky, what entrepreneurship means to you?
I think it means finding a problem that exists and then trying to have a solution for it. So like, I never set out to own my own business or be an entrepreneur. It was never something that I was, being focused on since day one. But I think that's when you ask, like, how did you get to this point? It seemed like it just needed to be done. There was a big problem that, food waste reduction as an industry is new enough, and it's an area that have a lot of experience in. So seeing a huge problem and being able to know that I can make a difference in it, you take advantage of that like, opportunity 100%. So I think but this, entrepreneurship doesn't even have to be starting your own business. You could be in a large company and see a big problem and create a solution for that. So you can be an entrepreneur within a large business if you're, just coming up with ideas and putting them into practice and making a difference, I think.
Yeah, no, certainly, totally. And if you had to give yourself a little advice, the younger Aisling, to all this that is happening now, what would that be?
I would say probably don't be scared. Like, as in, there's nothing that's going to be too detrimental. So, speaking to people, especially in the beginning, was a terrifying concept. But people are lovely. So people always give you a time of day. Like, people won't even say, Irish people anyway, won't even ever say no. They just, they'll never be rude. People are, it can be really daunting to get out there with your idea and put it in front of people and be nervous about what reception you're going to say, but it's the only way to do it as well. So just don't be scared, just go for it, because especially when there's an old saying that's saying that you should be really embarrassed of your first product. I look back at our first sales deck and I can't believe that's out in circulation in the world. Like, some people have that on their desktop somewhere. But it was the first stage of having to get to the point we are now. So just get going and get started on it. Yeah,
because when you started, I remember you did a presentation for us in New Frontiers for the new crowd, and it was a big piece of the scales, and now it's reduced dramatically, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but that's evolution, isn't it? Like, you have to start with something to get somewhere.
Exactly, yeah.
So my last question for today, Aisling. If you had to give 3 tips to any student that wants to set up their own company or want to have more entrepreneurship mindset, as you were explaining about looking in a company, a problem, come up with a solution, what would be your 3 top tips?
3. Number 1, it fits into that point there, is just get out and start talking to people. You will learn more in a half an hour conversation with someone about what the problem is than doing months of research, because exactly for us, we'd never worked in commercial kitchens before, so we needed to speak to people who'd work in commercial kitchens. So get out there and just start talking to people. Even if you have a slight idea, tell your idea to people, because they'll be the ones to quickly tell you if it's something that appeals to them or not, and then you can build on it from there. Our first product to what it is now is very, very different, and that comes from talking to people. Get your tech out there, or whatever your solution might be, out there as early as possible. I know it was a huge learning for me, is that we had our first prototype. There was obviously a lot of problems with it, and I almost was too afraid to put it out there in case it didn't work and it was embarrassing and they wanted to take it out or something like that. But again, you will never learn faster than actually having your tech in there and getting feedback on what the product is. So you always want to, then the third one is, you always want to be building a product that people actually want. So if you just build what you think this solution should be, you're going to build something that no one wants. So while if you're getting constant feedback from people on what do you like, what do you not like, what's a feature you're never ever going to use, what's something that we've glaringly missed and needs to be there, you're just going to build something that is functional and people want and people will pay for as well. So they're all kind of in lines of just
Yeah.
speak to people, get it out there, and don't be afraid to get feedback, even if it's, you know, where we started from and where we are now is completely different, and there's people who sort of attached to their first idea, they won't move off it, so they've built this perfectly great thing that no one wants. So just be open to change and evolving the product as you go as well.
Yeah, no, Ashley, that was so good. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your story with us. Thanks a million.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.